I think just goes to show that you can, once you get into university, there are so many opportunities. And I know particularly at ANU, my experience was that there was so much encouragement for you to find what you're interested in, to try out a whole range of different stuff, to take advantage of your electives. And if you realize that what you're doing is, not actually what you want to be doing, there's lots of opportunities for you to change. And so, yeah, they were really supportive of me changing from law. A lot of questions of like, really, you waited this long to do it? But glad that you did it and found what you're interested in.
So we're in Melbourne, and I'm at the booth of the Australian National University, which is not in Melbourne. I'm here with Sophie and Belle. Guys, firstly, thanks for joining me on the Choosing Your Uni podcast. But secondly, ANU, of course, is located in Canberra. We're in Melbourne, and I guess you guys are here because a lot of students move from interstate in order to study with the ANU. Belle, is this a common story for you?
Yes, this story is definitely familiar for me. I moved from regional New South Wales to Canberra back in 2020, so just before the lockdown era. But yeah, moving to Canberra was something that I was very excited for. Didn't think I'd end up there. I don't think many people imagine themselves in Canberra when they're like 14 and they're thinking about all the cities they can live in. Yeah, I just had a friend who came to ANU and I heard of really amazing things. And I didn't even consider unis outside of my local bubble up until I got older, and my friend was like, I'm going to ANU. And I was like, oh, what do they offer to study? And, I was used to my smaller uni, which just had the, very generalized arts and science. And I was like, I could do international relations, Middle Eastern studies, like all these very specialized degrees. And getting to move out of home is a very fun and unique experience and just a good way to understand yourself, a bit more independent of your parents.
Where were you from? Where'd you come from?
I was from Maitland in the Hunter Valley.
Wow. Okay,
yeah.
So Newcastle, Uni of Newcastle would have been your
Yes, that was my local uni, and its options, were just quite standardized, and I was like, I'm not really particularly interested in any of these, and I was just kind of like fiddling around like, that doesn't sound the worst. But yeah, seeing all these very unique and specialized degrees was so appealing to me.
And so you've ended up studying international studies, international relations,
Yes.
Middle Eastern studies, because the ANU's got some real strengths in anything to do with diplomacy and international relations, correct?
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's so many unique partnerships. So I got to do like an internship as a part of my study with a government embassy for 6 months, which was really cool. And it's just something that I wouldn't have been able to do at my home university. Like it just was not possible. And yeah, I mean, it really is the place to do those things. Like living amongst the embassies, you just play like spot the politician on campus, basically. There's always somebody around visiting. So yeah, it's definitely very unique for that.
Now, Sophie, you also moved in order to study at the ANU in Canberra, but you moved from Melbourne. What was it like moving from Melbourne to Canberra?
Yes, it's so funny. Whenever I tell people I'm from Melbourne, they're always like, aren't people moving from Canberra to Melbourne? Why did you go the other direction? And like Belle, I was not anticipating ending up in Canberra. I started uni in 2017 and I've been there ever since. So I definitely consider Canberra my home now. I was totally set up to go to uni in Melbourne. I actually had a place at a university here in Melbourne. And like Belle, I knew someone who went to ANU and I was sort of just keeping my options open, seeing what else is out there. And everything I'd heard about ANU from my friend was incredible. It sounded like such an awesome opportunity to have a really unique on-campus experience in terms of the fact that because so many people do move to Canberra, we have on-campus accommodation. So it's a really vibrant community. And she was telling me about all these really cool things that she was doing, how her class was really interesting, how she was meeting all these new people and making such, great friends from so many different backgrounds. And I thought that sounded like such a cool thing to do at the university age. And so I had a look at ANU programs, and I remember so vividly looking on their course catalogue, and they had this particular subject that was television studies. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. I have to do that subject. So I moved to ANU, took the subject, haven't turned back, and I really do love living in Canberra. And, it's nice to come back to Melbourne. And I think just to show people that is an option, that it's, really normal and really awesome opportunity to get to move to study somewhere else for university.
And now you've, of course, gone the entire way through the academic program. You're doing a PhD.
I am doing a PhD now, and I'm actually teaching that same television studies. I'm on the other side of it. I'm actually tutoring that subject this semester. So it's really, it's a beautiful full circle. And the research opportunities at ANU are really incredible, really unique. There's so many opportunities to get involved with teaching, to be involved at administrative levels, to get to see what it looks like to have a research career. I've received funding to travel to conferences, in all parts of the world, to do field work. And the supervisor relationship that I've had has been so beautiful. Like, I feel really lucky to be doing my research at ANU.
Do you want to just, for those people who might not know what a PhD is,
definitely.
just explain not only what it is, but how you've managed to get there?
Yeah, for sure. So PhD, it's a Doctor of Philosophy, and it's a research degree that you do. It's sort of the end of your studies. It's the highest level of study that you can do in Australia. And it's a research program, normally 3 to 4 years. And essentially you are writing a thesis that's about 80 to 100,000 words.
It's like a book.
Yeah, it pretty much is a book. It's pretty much a book on a unique topic. So essentially what you're trying to do is have an original contribution to knowledge. So you're looking for a gap in the research and then spending your time filling in that gap. And so you can do them in any area of knowledge. My area is screen studies, so I'm looking at representations of girlhood in French cinema. So I'm looking to understand what these films, this new popular trend about films which center girls as the main protagonists, and trying to understand what that says about how we perceive and understand girls in French culture. So how I got there was I did my undergraduate at ANU, and I did some French cinema courses, really loved them, got along really well with the lecturer and was really interested in the research that she was doing. And then at the end of my undergraduate, I did an honours year. So it's a 1 year on top of your bachelor's degree. And essentially that's like a mini thesis. So it's normally 15 to 20,000 words. And then I looked also at French cinema, and Girl Gang was my particular area of research. And while I was doing that, I didn't think that research was going to be my path, but I was just enjoying it so much and found it so valuable, and I had a lot of opportunities to present at conferences and get to talk to other people who were doing their PhD. And I was like, that sounds like such an awesome thing that I can continue to do that and pursue that. And so after doing your honours year, you can then go into a PhD. You can also go through as a master's pathway. Essentially, you just need to do a degree that has a thesis component, whatever that is, before you can go into a PhD.
What I love about what you've been discussing there is just this, how the pathway continues to open up for you as you go into uni. Like all this stuff that you don't even know when you're in high school. You don't even know the opportunities that are available. And suddenly as you're there and you're like, oh my gosh, there's I can go into this area. And then suddenly I can go deeper into that area. And then you find this cool little niche that somebody's researching or running a career. And you're like, holy smokes, I can do that for a career.
Pretty much. And I started in a totally different degree. When I first started at ANU, I actually was in law and did it for 3 years. And it's a 5-year degree as a combination. So I was halfway through my law degree and I changed, which I think just goes to show that you can, once you get into university, there are so many opportunities. And I know particularly at ANU, my experience was that there was so much encouragement for you to find what you're interested in, to try out a whole range of different stuff, to take advantage of your electives. And if you realize that what you're doing is, not actually what you want to be doing, there's lots of opportunities for you to change. And so, yeah, they were really supportive of me changing from law. A lot of questions of like, really, you waited this long to do it? But glad that you did it and found what you're interested in. So yeah, I changed at the start of my 4th year into languages, and that was the best decision for me. And now that's what I study full time.
G'day, it's Rob here. Hey, are you a parent or a carer of a student that's thinking of going to uni in the years ahead? Did you know that Choosing Your Uni has a whole bunch of resources that are just for people like you? And you can find those at parents.choosingyouruni.com. You're going to find things like links to our Facebook community, downloadable worksheets, and heaps of advice by parents for parents. It's all the sort of stuff that you need to help guide your student on their journey to uni and beyond. Check it out now, parents.choosingyouruni.com.
Belle, for you, what has been the most unique or unexpected thing that you've discovered? And that could be something academic, or it could just be something that's about Canberra.
Yeah, I think one thing for me about Canberra is it definitely has that general stereotype of it's just the public servant workers. And you do see that. You do see everyone in their little Kathmandu puffer jackets every morning on the tram, shuffling in. You do get that. But I think one thing that definitely surprised me was how social it was. I remember being on my drive down there with my mum, moving all my boxes, and I was freaking out. I was like, what if I don't make any friends? Like, what if everyone just wants to be a career politician? Like, I don't know how to talk to these people. And then the minute I was there, I was moving into my accommodation and I made a friend in the elevator who was just kind of like, are you moving in? And then saw my boxes and was like, that's a really silly question. But it's like nearly 5 years later for me, and we're still friends. And like, I think that's the big thing that surprised me, that like Canberra is so unique, and I definitely wasn't totally sure what to expect with it not being, Sydney or Melbourne, which I feel like I have a lot more of a concrete idea of. But I think for most of us, when we moved to Canberra, our biggest experience was Year 6 Questacon, going on the giant slide, and I got food poisoning, so my memories of Canberra was so limited. Good. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, what if I get food poisoning? But no, and going there and just seeing how warm and excited people are to meet you, because as Sophie said, people have moved from interstate. We're all in very similar boats where it's such a new experience, and we were kind of just diving in the deep end. But I think your question was something that's like surprised me. Yeah. I think the other thing was like how much support there is and how many opportunities there are as well. I think that, when I first started, I wasn't really aware of the things that I could ask for support for. And, going into lockdown pretty soon after moving, I was a bit like, I don't know, I'm just here online. I'm like a little blip. But as I came back onto campus, I was like, oh, there's like so much academic support and, career support and social support and all of these things that I just didn't think I could ask for help for. I could, as well as the huge amount of opportunities. Like, I was accepted to do an internship in journalism in Indonesia.
Amazing.
Which was really cool. And it came with government funding as well from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
New Colombo
Plan? Yes, it was a New Colombo funding. And the fact that, that's something that I could even do was crazy to me. But the fact that I also got funding for it, I was like, I've just felt very lucky, and it's something that's so, unique to ANU and to these prestigious universities that, definitely when I was in year 12, I don't think I would have imagined that that's a position I was going to be in.
What kind of person do you think is suited to the ANU?
Somebody who's curious. I think having just a general curiosity about the things there and the world around you really help. I think, and also a willingness to try. Like, how I ended up in my specialization in Middle Eastern studies was just, I picked a course because I was like, that's a gap in my knowledge. I don't know that much about the Middle East. And I had the most phenomenal lecturer who I'm still in contact with. She's so lovely. And I was like, I'm just going to take more of these courses. And yeah, having just a willingness to try and know more and find out who you are as a person and what kind of knowledge you have, I guess. And if you're eager to meet people, ANU is definitely the place for that. As Soph said, very vibrant on campus population. It's very hard not to make friends. So I guess if you don't want to make friends, I'm not sure. But yeah, I found it very easy to talk to people. So just being a little bit curious and willing to put yourself out there. And I don't regret going to ANU at all.
What do you think, Sophie? What kind of person or people might be well suited to Canberra and the ANU?
Yeah, I think curious is good. I think that they really encourage you at ANU to try a whole range of different stuff and take advantage of your electives and try different things. And so, even in screen studies, the students that I teach are from a whole range of disciplines. It's not just students in arts and literature. There's science students, there's commerce students, law students who are using their electives to try something different. And that's definitely something ANU encourages. And I agree that I think that Canberra the on-campus community is really vibrant, and it's a great way to meet people, to make lifelong friendships, but also to find your networks, to find people who are interested in the same kind of careers that you're interested into. And I think it's a good place to really discover who you are and what you're interested in outside of high school. And I think that's one of the benefits of moving for university, is that you're in a totally different environment with totally different people. And so you kind of get rid of, some of the baggage, I suppose, of, going to the same people with high school with. It's a total fresh start. And I think that, people who are looking for adventure and people who are looking for something different, I think, moving is a really good opportunity to meet a whole new group of people and really get to find out what you're interested in.
I really like that. I love the idea that, you go to university. It's something you've chosen for yourself. It's a dedicated choice. And you're really making the most of being on campus and being part of that community and making the most of the experience. I really think it's changing. I really think there are more and more Australians who are moving for higher education, and that's a good thing.
I definitely agree. I think it's a really great way of testing your boundaries and testing, what you're capable of. And it can seem quite scary. I know I was the same with Belle. I just really knew one person in Canberra, and I was really scared to move. What if I don't know anybody? What if I don't make any friends? I think it's a really common fear, but I think almost everybody at ANU has an anecdote of meeting somebody on day one, whether it's in a class or at a social event, or whether it's just as Belle was moving into the building, that you meet someone, you just make that connection because you have one thing in common, and that's that you've made the decision to move to ANU. And so just by virtue of that, you have something you can talk about, and that I think is really beautiful.
Last question, guys. Think about people in high school. A piece of advice. now that you guys have been to uni, had good experiences, done several degrees in some cases, like what advice would you go back and give to your 16, 17-year-old self? So if you got the microphone, let's start with you.
Yeah, honestly, I think the advice I would give to my 16, 17-year-old self is don't worry, it'll work out. I was so stressed in high school about making sure I got that ATAR. And that was, it is important to, aim for the ATAR to get into the degree that you want, but knowing that there are so many pathways and opportunities that if it doesn't work out the first time, there's so many different ways into things. And, I think about where I am now, considering that I started by applying for a law degree and now I'm doing my PhD in French cinema. Could never have predicted that path, and so I think my advice would be stop stressing and just follow your passions and things will work out for you.
On aurait pu faire cet entretien en français alors.
Ah, bien sûr. Pourquoi vous n'avez dit ça?
Belle, how about you?
I think my advice would be very similar to Soph's. I think I would tell little 16-year-old Belle and be like, take a deep breath. Actually, enjoy your life a little bit. I think I was too eager to throw myself into my studies and get out of Maitland, basically. And I thought that my ATAR was the ticket out of there, in which it definitely helped. But I don't think that I needed to put that amount of stress on myself to get it right in one go. I also thought I had to get the right degree when I started, but I transferred degrees at ANU, which is so common at ANU. I think that's, another really important thing, that no matter where you are, you can change your mind and you can learn that there's something else that you've never heard of before that you actually will really enjoy studying. Like you really go to, the step is getting to uni. And then once you're there, you have so much time to find yourself and so much room for that. And so, just telling myself you don't need to have it all figured out because you're 22 now and you're still doing postgraduate study, you don't have it figured out and you're just at peace with it now and that's okay. And I think we put way too much pressure on ourselves and, a lot of institutions put that pressure on us as well to have it all worked out when we're still children.
Yeah, most 50-year-olds haven't got it worked out, let's face it.
Gosh, no.
Drop the pressure. Awesome. Belle, Sophie, thanks so much for joining me on the Choosing Uni podcast.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
At Choosing Your Uni, our mission is to make finding your ideal institution and your degree fun, easy and stress-free. So if you're looking to save some time, to discover more and to get personalised advice for every step of your journey, check out choosingyouruni.com. Our theme music is composed by Pasha Shogi and his band Flow, and this episode has been researched and constructed on Garigal land in Sydney. Until next time, have yourself an awesome day.